Dear Dhamma friends, Venerables and Dhamma friends, we are going to have today's Dhamma talk. May everyone settle down and give the consent with sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Namo tasse bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhasse. Tesahang dukkha samudaya arya saccang putto vyakaroma. Tesahang cittang aradhema panyassa veyakaranenāti. Dear Venerables, Dhamma friends, we are going to proceed along the same discourse known as Sakuludaayi Sutta or Maha Sakuludaayi Sutta, whereby the Buddha is enumerating one by one why his disciples are venerating him, respecting him, and revering him, live independence upon him with respect and veneration. The fourth aspect he indicates is whenever they come and ask about the Four Noble Truths, then the Buddha managed to give a satisfactory answer. The way he is dealing it make them satisfied. His explanation is satisfying. That is why they are keep on venerating and respecting him. So out of these four truths, yesterday we took the very first one, the truth of suffering. So it is a kind of a thing, no one happy to present right from the beginning. Many wanted to present their philosophy or message in a gloss-over manner, in a pleasant way, or something kind of an attractive way. So therefore, first and foremost, all the teachers avoid this, not to talk suffering. So therefore, all the other teachings are try to make something positive, advertisement, and attractive for the majority. But the Buddha never think in terms of majority. He is addressing to the intelligent people and those who are really practical and pragmatic. So simply as far as the truth of suffering is in the forefront, always the followers of the Buddha is minority with respect to the society at large. So it was throughout. So therefore, no one can expect a Buddhist world. No one can expect a Buddhist country, because always if you take a society, minority is accepting this because it is right from the beginning, it is astringent, it is sour in taste, bitter in taste. So therefore, it's a kind of a revolutionary, radical way of presenting the truth of suffering. So that also never the Buddha preached by himself. He is waiting till the other party come and ask the question. So as the Buddha mentioned, Teman dukkang ariya saccang pucchanti. Sometimes they come and ask this utter friction in our life, utter suffering in our life, burning in our life. When they come and ask me directly, I give the answer, and I can manage to give an answer that my dialogue with them is always good enough to satisfy them. So today, the second truth, they asked me about the truth of the origin of suffering. So being asked, I explained the noble truth of the origin of suffering. So that means whenever they ask that question, the Buddha is appreciating it. Just mere specialization of suffering is not the total teaching. It's a must, it's a beginning. And then it must lead to the cessation, origin, understand the origin of suffering. And the way that the Buddha gave, it is satisfying the people, the Buddhist way of explaining the origin of the suffering. So that is kind of a very pragmatic presentation. Buddha never go and preach people at large, society at large. He is waiting till the necessary person comes to him, and then only the question and answer. So dialogue is the main issue. Not that there were some cases where the Buddha took initiative to deliver a talk or start dialogue, but more often it happened, the other party comes to the Buddha, and then the dialogue starts. So when the Dhammajiva Sutta, the very first sutta the Buddha delivered, it is called the world turning monarch, the turning of the Dhammajiva. It says he walked so much of miles to meet the first 5 monks, and then out of his initiative only he gave that first sermon. So therefore, before taking that decision, he contemplated and see who is the person who can understand this kind of profound teaching, and by scrutiny, he at last came to the 5 monks, and that is the starting point. And there also you have the same teaching. What does it mean by the origin of truth of suffering, or noble truth of suffering, noble truth of the origin of suffering? It says, Yayang tanna, pono bhavika, nandi raga sagata, tatra tatta abhinandani, seyatita, kama tanna, bhavatanna, vibhavatanna. It says this, there is a attachment, or there is a craving, and it is renewing yourself. Always a renewal of your being. You make amused all the time, from morning to evening, from this life to next life, this year to the next year. Always is refreshing and renewing you, and it is renewing your own being. So that is what you call Pono Bhavika. Nandiraga Sagata, it's always delighting, and it is full of lust. And whatever the secret of the Tanna is delighting then and there. Whatever it may confront with, it takes delight of that. So much so, out of this delight, you can forget about the rest of the world. You never understand, by take delight of that particular thing, you get engrossed with that, so that you are forgetting the rest of the world that you never understand. That the rest of the world gone forever, you never can catch it. So, by understanding this role of tanha, what the Buddha says, your amusement and taking delight of re-becoming to the next moment, you try to understand, is it happening due to your agenda, or is this the thing you are aiming at, or it's a kind of inbuilt system. Each and every moment we are searching for new amusements, new delight, new lust, and you keep on just like the donkey chasing behind a carrot. It appears something rewarding. So that is how the tanha is leading you. If you are not really observing it, usually you are supposed to take it as it is due to my driving force, or it is me that I am driving. But when you keep on observing, you find it's a kind of a tendency, or kind of a hidden tendency is pulling you. Once you are caught up, there's no other way you to justify it. So therefore you do each and every mistake, and after the mistake, either you regret or you try to give reasoning. But before, if you can understand, this is a kind of a driving force there. If it is so, your understanding this origin is very, very important. That is why the Buddha says, some people are so sharp, they not come and ask me the truth of suffering. They come and ask the origin of suffering, the noble truth of origin of suffering. So it is the second grade, not the primary class. Whenever he is asking, she is asking, Buddha can tackle the question and he can give a substantial answer to say, Yayan Tanna Pono Bhavika. There's a kind of a desire, always keep you amusing one after the other. So you have to understand it. And then Nandiraga Sagata, it is also delighting and lustful. And whatever the confronted, you get engrossed. You plunge into that. Ultimately you are dominated by that, and for that you are getting blind enough to the rest of the world. This is the way the Buddha is explaining the cause of suffering. So that the Buddha enumerated in 3 types: Kamatanna, Bhavatanna, Vibhavatanna. So as far as household life or our day-to-day life is concerned, according to the case we have taken yesterday, so we are from morning to evening always try to satisfy our eye with different colors and different shapes. So more and more colors and more shape we call we are rich. So we make it multifaceted, multicolored. So that is how the technology, that is our households, that is our dwelling, our clothings, that's our food, that is everything what we do, different shapes, different colors. As far as the sounds are concerned, we try to get Eastern music, Western music, classic music, rock music, and natural music, all the kind of thing. So if you can have access to many, that means you appear like rich. So therefore from morning to evening, we do overtime, we go abroad, we leave our household and go and in search of money in order to increase the different kinds of sounds to satisfy your ear. And as far as the smells are concerned, you never happy with what is existing. You always wish to have perfumes and different smells. So therefore they are, even for one drop, it's costing so much. But even then, you accumulate money for a whole month and then go and buy that particular thing. And in Nissarana we have kind of a tree we call Vallapatta. And there's some parts of that tree, it seems, after getting rotten, they can extract very expensive perfume. So therefore all the Vallapatta trees are now chopped off. And forest department come and lodge a case against Nissarana. We are the people cutting Vallapatta. Still we are going to the court. It is not for firewood. It is not for timber. It is for perfume. And people come in night while it's raining and they cut it and take the wood, and the special task force police is coming, forest people are coming, police people are coming, still they can't catch. Because so much chasing, because it is very expensive. You don't know you are contributing to that. As far as you are expecting good perfumes, knowingly or unknowingly, you are the people helping them, and the media is doing the balance. That is what the nose is concerned. As well as the tongue is concerned, one person says, even the Maharajas or kings, in the olden days, they used to eat somewhat putrefied and rotten food in the night because they have to keep it long time while it is rottening. But now even the medium class people have fridges and a prepared food, and they can reach easily what the Maharajas eating, and they are so rich. But still the problem of obesity and problem of so much of cholesterol, more and more food, and most of the problems are not due to starvation, this is due too much of food. And still our politicians are giving promise, please give me the vote, I will give more food. So that is the campaign. So we think they are the good politicians because they are very compassionate and they are going to give everything. But the Buddha says, don't eat in the night. So then people are easily go to the politician than Buddha. And as far as the bodily, ornamental and clothings and our furnitures, our vehicles, you can imagine the next model coming. How much they concern about the comfort in the body, and we are ready to pay any amount. It doesn't matter. We want to get the highest in the country. We want to get the highest in the society, so we pay anything. And that the multi-billion companies, multinational companies know how fool the human are. They invest so much money for the new models, they advertise. They spend so much of money for the advertisement, and we can't imagine. It may be sometimes our whole national 1 year gross expenditure of a country. They spend for the advertisement because they knows people are ready to buy. And as far as pet ideas and thinkings are concerned, everyone is a prolific thinker. They keep on imagining. So this is what we call kama-tanha, the sensuous pleasure and indulgence of your senses. And in that case, we are in a rat race. Each country, each person, each class is keep on doing, and no one reached the satisfaction. Still we are running, and we know at the end, at the death, we die with that unsatisfactoriness and uncontentedness, because throughout the history, not a single person have a peaceful death. They are always having something vacuum, something lacking, something uncontented. So still, you see the way we are justifying our own kama-tanha or sensuous pleasure or indulgence of your senses. So if someone going to say this is materialistic pleasure, there is an immaterial pleasure in the world that is a little religious, that is little spiritual. Why don't you have an alternative and see and the kind of immaterial pleasure? So that is not appealing. That is won't give any impressed. You will get impressed unless otherwise you have a real rationalization or real mind or real self well-being. We people belong to that. We are also chasing behind the sense pleasure. We are also chasing behind the indulgence. But meanwhile, the Buddha says there is a kind of a pleasure that is not related to the senses, and it is not depending upon the sensual impingements. It is called immaterial pleasure. For that, the Buddha is prescribing have acquaintance with one neutral, verifiable object, when and where the mind is face to face with that object, and if you are verily, you know there, you can understand you are completely cut off from your all the senses. That is called anindriya patibaddha. So indriya patibaddha means we are either material pleasure are always either related to the eye and visual objects, or ear and the sounds, or nose and the smell, or tongue and the taste, or body and the tactile sensation, and the mind and the pet ideas. But when and where you go into the immaterial pleasure, when and where mind is face to face with a particular object, and you are skillful, easily you can check. When and where you absorb into that particular object, it is that experience not happening through your eye, not happening through your ear, not happening through your nose, tongue, body and the mind, but there is a solid experience. So that is the way the Buddha is convincing. The Kama Tanha is, yes, that is the starting point, but the Buddha teaching is to give an alternative, but it is not the ultimate truth. So that is how some people become religious, some people are spiritual, and they keep on practicing meditation. Otherwise, what the people doing is, whenever someone is gaining certain amount of amenities up to one's own sensuous impingements, soon they wanted to give it to my family members, my clan, my society, my religion, and to not only here, tomorrow also I must have, not only now, tomorrow also I must have, not only here, wherever I go I must have this facility, and whoever I wish. So ultimately, due to your little success, you calculate it to spread to the dear and near ones, tomorrow, all the places, all the people. That is called expansion of the same sense or desire into other people, other places, other type. That is called bhavatanha. So even one being unsatisfied, even one being uncontented, he or she is trying best to give the facilities to the outside. You can imagine how much problems or how difficulties and how much impediments can happen. So therefore you are often confronted with difficulties, friction, and therefore more and more you think expanded, more and more you are met up with problems and friction and difficulties. Whenever it happens, if you are not in a healthy kind of understanding, you think my idea of helping others is Samaritan, benevolent, well-being of others is good, but that particular person or that particular factor or that thing is distracting me, disturbing me, so I must kill him. I must remove him. Or you develop so much of hatred to the people, those who are disturbing you. So therefore your very desire perverted into the hatred, you don't know how it happens. So therefore bhavatanha is often perverted into vibhavatanha. In Sigmund Freud's language, he presented it as death instinct. Either you kill him or you commit suicide. Whenever your wishes are not fulfilled, and you think the other person is the one is disturbing, or my bloody self is the one, so that can go into such a nasty way. So very tanha, very desire, go into perversions, and all the mental diseases are due to vibhava tanha, due to this hatred. At the beginning, in the medical science, they told some asthma and skin conditions, they found the relationship with psychosomatic relationship. So therefore there was a short list earlier, relationship with the mental situation and the physical diseases. Now they recognize each and every disease is represented in the bodily. So therefore, the mind and the body relationship, they find each and every disease is psychosomatic because of unsatisfied nature of your desire, and being so, still you try to give it to others also. Ultimately you are burning the candle from both the ends. So therefore it is perpetuation of suffering. Instead, the Buddha present this immaterial pleasure. That is of course the answer for that. So the next step. So when you go there, you may cut off from the seeing objects and you close your eyes. And you try to be away from sounds and go to a silent place. And you do not indulge smelling and tasting, and keep the body also unshaken and mind also pointed to one particular point. That's a way, giving an example, in this very life, you can experience something as alternative pleasure, that is called immaterial pleasure. So that is what we call meditation. So yesterday we discussed, whenever we go for that kind of meditation techniques, how much problems. Either it is going to the past or due to the future. Or you become slimy and sleepy or overexcited. Or you get delighted or you get hateful. All these 6 aspects is nothing but due to tanha, nothing but due to this desire. So, desire disturbs you because you are applying the mind into the same thing. It is not refreshing. It is not giving a delight and the lust. So therefore, when and where you try to apply the mind to the one particular object, all the kind of problems are happening. Because so much in the samsara, if you are accepting, or in your life, you gave so much of varietal entertainment. So therefore, when and where it is going to apply to one particular object, you can understand how the monkey mind and your very disturbed mind is do not happy when and where the meditation is progressing. So therefore, when and where the meditation is progressing, the opposite of tanha is happening. That means the boredom. That's the monotony. That's the slimy mind. That is the mind is hidden. Mind is so sleepy. So when that happens, if the person is well instructed, if the person is well prepared, as and when the object mind is associating with particular object, quickly you feel your bodily posture collapse, you feel like sleepy, or you feel monotonous, you feel bored, and you don't know what is happening, or sometimes complain like sleeping. So you consider all of them as negative. So why the Buddha is taking this the question of the truth of the origin of suffering? Because you are the very person go against this immaterial pleasure, because mind is programmed to disturb or go against whenever the same thing going to happen again and again. So therefore, the day the yogi to understand when and where the mindfulness is continuous, 4 things going to happen. First thing is irritation. Whenever the mindful go one thought moment to other thought moment, or in one in-breath to out-breath, again in-breath to out-breath, kind of irritation starts. So an irritation we consider something negative. So therefore, if someone to understand and pinpoint, this is the first and foremost sign of your mindfulness, you feel irritated. So if you go prepared, that means you are thoroughly thorough about the origin of the suffering, and therefore you expect this kind of side effects when and where mind is applied to one particular object, the irritation happens. So imagine if someone is so prepared to understand this arising irritation as a sign of mindfulness or progress of mindfulness, it is we call real revolution. That is the real radical reflection. So I don't know how many 14-day retreats you have to do for that. There's no relationship. You've been doing meditation again and again. When and where it is coming along with the progress, you are the very person complaining, I feel bored. I feel monotonous. I feel sleepy. I feel get up and go. I feel so much of pain. So the day you understand this is a result of meditation, you are not the person getting up from that particular sitting. Completely your personality, your likings and disliking has to sacrifice. So therefore, to understand the origin of suffering, to understand amusement or delight or lust is the one making you renewed in the rebirth of being. When and where you apply the mind to the one particular object, the opposite is happening. That is called nibbida in the meditation jargon. The nibbida is always happening in the head base. When the irritation happens, you think get up and go. You change the teacher. You change the object of meditation. Or you change the meditation center. And think, it is not working in me. And therefore you change, keep on doing. Again you are going for varietal entertainment. It is called, in my vocabulary, it is the spiritual consumerization. Spiritual luxury. You have so much of masters in the world. You go to this master, he is no good. And then go to the next master, he is no good. You go to the next master, he also not good. The center is no good. So you ultimately you write a book. This is what the Buddha mentioned. Present day you can't any masters. And present day, if you go to an exhibition of the books and read the books, you can see this kind of a rotten mentality they have. Because they expect delight and lust in meditation. If you are to understand this is the origin of the truth of suffering, imagine what kind of a revolution you must have. Is it possible to have that kind of preparation or that kind of preparedness in the meditative only by listening, only by theoretical understanding, only by book knowledge? Some quick-wit people can, others never. But they think meditation is going to give so much of different things, but when you go and sit there, nothing you get but boredom, irritation, and kind of a monotonous feeling. And you hesitate to report it, thinking it is unbecoming. I am such a smart person, how can that I report? So you never report what you experience. You are always waiting. I saw a light, very purple in color, yellow in color, coming from both the sides, coming from the center. So you spend so much of your essay to see all these, the positive signs. And you wish to see the lightness, or you wish to see all the kind of thing. But when and where this, the irritation, the boredom happen, hardly you can report. And that is because the irritation happening in the meditation, you completely misunderstand and you consider this as a symptom of a disease or mistake in your mindfulness or mistake in your concentration. So therefore, if you wish to understand the origin of the truth of suffering, you have to understand when you are not in meditation, how many postures you are changing, how many visual objects you are going through, how many sounds, smells, tastes and ideas, and instead applying one thing to the one thing, It is not difficult to get this feeling, but the thing is correct perspective, correct interpretation, correct reporting is very difficult. Yet another aspect in the Gurdjieff book, Ouspensky is writing it, he says fault finding or self-criticism. He says, I don't have enough merits. That is why I can't meditate, and that is why this irritation happens. You consider yourself as inferior. All the other meditators are perfectly sitting and they are in heavens. I am the person only not in that. So therefore, your self-criticism, meditators are masters. Therefore, we should have a separate asylum for meditators. Because it is created one. It's an acquainted one. Just like HIV virus, AIDS, acquired disease. It's a side effect of your meditation. So when and where it happens that if you talk to meditators, only 1% will tell what is happening. All the others says, Bhante, I have a secret to tell you. Personally, I have to meet you and make it personalized and says, I can't talk in the society. This is what it happens. And at last you find self-criticism. So there one has to say, this is the beginning or this is the onset of mindfulness. When and where you become mindful on one particular object, is the self-criticism happen. So unless otherwise you meet true person or noble person to rectify it, your whole meditation is misdirected. So the true person must come and you must open a dialogue and you must say, yes, when the mindfulness is and it's at the beginning, the irritation happen, you understand this has a progress. Or that understand you are in catching the momentum. And your self-criticism happens. So, they appear like something modern psychology, but even then, in the old commentaries, also it says, Dhammasangani commentary, normal beings in the world, sensuous beings, are caught up in the samsaric journey or this perpetuation because of the delight and the lust. The meditator knows the delight and lust is ultimately going to end up with the unsatisfactory. He is a person renounced and going to be with one particular object because of the master's instruction. When it happens, his basic problem not related to the delight and the lust, but due to the hatred. So whenever you observe precepts and try to be a restraint, you start restrainment in your morality, and when you go to the meditation, you don't know how much the hatred increases towards oneself. It's a self-hatred is naturally increasing. So therefore, normal worldlings, those who are in the sensuous pleasure or indulgence, they are caught up in the delight and the lust. But the meditators, 99% self-hatred. It's a kind of a perversion. And when you read, when you write, when you interview them, they are never happy with the meditation. Because whatever happening is negating. It's appear like something self-critical. Or otherwise, easily they say, it is because the other person is coughing. The people would have live in the very calm and silent way. I came to the Nissarana or meditation center with so much sacrifice. Still, people are not, they're lousy. They are not up to the mark. So I can't meditate. So if you can't find fault with your own, you find fault with the other meditators. So, Venerable Pandita, Pandita Sayadaw, he says what happened to him in this very life, the book. He says he learned literature, very sharp in the grammar, and it happened him to, at the age of 26 or so, to go to meditation. It's very, very rare. All the learned people go to universities, never to meditation centers. So it's a kind of a problem. But in his case, has gone to Mahasi center and he found a lot of monks are meditating. First 2 weeks, he find not a single monk is up to the monastic code. So he was boiling inside. These fellows came to meditation center to meditate, and they must have more virtues, morality, but no one. So he says, whenever he sees other meditators, he find the fault finding with other people. And one day, Shivayumin Sayadaw has given an instruction, of course not to aiming at him. He says, be mindful and mind your own business. And he says that it cannot be, because I am a member of this dispensation, so my brothers and other co-practitioners must be up to the mark. So at his room, he got a kind of a example or epithet or kind of a representation. He saw he is in the sea with a very dingy boat, small dingy boat, and the water is very rugged. And he can see far away other people also fishing and all the kind of thing. And he can see a development of a storm. And the people are with full sail, and they don't observe the developing storm, and they keep on fishing. So he starts shouting, all telling, hey guys, look at the sky. Now it is a storm going to happen. Uncoil your sails. And he was shouting. Ultimately, when he is looking at his sail, still that is in full pledge. He says, as far as I am shouting and others, I am also in trouble. Then only he came to understand it is none of my business to check about the other people. But when you are meditating or when you are mindful, you never understand, your sensitivity increases. So therefore you are judging all the fellow meditators. It is a good thing, but it works negatively. Unless otherwise you know, our mind is finding reason not to go into the same object. It is doing all the juggleries, all the perversions, and they appear like social events. You are concerned about your fellow meditators, but here the hatred is the base. And you try to be pedantic, and everything must be work to rule, and things are not happening smoothly. So find reason not to meditate and to run according to your timetable. So therefore, these four, when and where you to understand sign of onset of the mindfulness, you are a completely different person. You are not only with the theoretical understanding of the origin of the truth of suffering. You are not just contemplating and deducing and inferential. You can understand when the meditation happens. Today in the question and answer session we discussed, your hearing capacity, sensitivity increases. Your touch sensation increases. You feel a lot of heat and cold bubbles and heaviness, lightness. Different things in the body appear like novelty, but they are always there. Only while in the meditation only the sensitivity increases, they appear like amplified. It is not happening within the body. Towards your fellow meditators also it is happening. So if you have to read it in the correct way, you must understand when and where the mind is progressing, internally it rejects. Internally it has kind of allergic reactions, and your rational mind always interprets it in a wrong way. Only another advanced yogi or another neutral observer only can say, please read this symptom in this way. Therefore, when and where you are to see, to find the origin of the truth of suffering, you are much more with tools, because you are not searching on theory and deductive knowledge. You apply again and again to the primary object or one particular object, there they manifest in a very, very prolific way. And these things are well written in our literature. But you don't read them, you don't study them in the classrooms. But they appear like something religious, something away from our life. Unless otherwise you go there, it is irrelevant to you. And even it is happening, it's perverted. You can't understand it. Even if you understand once, it has to happen 1001 times. So that is how you have to understand. We are on the correct path. We get the results, but we judge it with this foolish mind. That with the defiled mind. And you never accept, even you given a fair judgment. So that is why we are being covered, we are being camouflaged, glossed over by this desire. Don't expect the desire is working only through the delight and lust. It works as a hatred also. The lust itself is converted or perverted into the hatred. And when they are working, easily one person can get mixed up and camouflaged. So therefore in Paticcasamuppada or in dependent origination, it says Vedana Pacca Tanha, Tanha Pacca Upadana. It says any feeling, pleasurable, painful or neutral, all going to create tanha. But we know painful feeling never create tanha. Neutral feeling never create tanha. Only the pleasurable feeling. But you can see in the Paticcasamuppada, in the 12 links kind of a relationship, Vedana is one way, linearly related to the tanha. Whatever you do tanha, you grab hold as upadana. So, but when you go in detail, tanha as hatred also as a shadow of the same. But no one can understand how this very tanha, whenever you become utterly disappointed, you hate the very thing. That is what you call perversion in our mind. It is, when I discuss with some of the scholars, they told that never been taught by the Western philosophy, Western psychology. They have to understand it, that very likings or very desire ultimately represent in the wrong way. The Buddha mentioned it, tanhai jayati soko, tanhai jayati bhayam, tanhai vipamuttasa, nati soko kuto bhayam. The very tanha, very desire, create suffering, create fear. That is because it is perverted. So when and where you are too much close with some person, too attracted to some phenomena or some experience, you don't know that is the very thing creating your suffering. You think that more and more association and more and more hugging and kissing will give you the more and more pleasure. But the Buddha says that very thing is ultimately going to kill you, going to poison you, going to hack you. So therefore, whenever it is presented in the household life or kind of thing, it appears like unsocial. So therefore, when in meditation, or specifically when you are developing mindfulness, you can see all the signs of mindfulness or development of mindfulness appear something negative. But even then, if you can practice, continue, if you can go, keep on practicing, then this perversion, through the proper discussion, through the proper dialogue only, you have to turn into the correct path that is called ayoniso manasikara, become yoniso manasikara. Kind of the unwise reflection become a wise reflection or radical reflection. When that happens, you can see it is always electric. There's not rationality where ayoniso manasikara turned into yoniso manasikara. It's always happening quickly or electric way. So therefore you have to give 1001 times for your rational thinking or deductive thinking or inferential thinking to seek an alternative. The Buddha is giving a suggestion, but you have to, while keep on practicing only, you may understand all the desire or delighted things are the main source of suffering. In Malunkyaputta Sutta, the Buddha, the Malunkyaputta is a very old person, or ordained at his old age. He comes to the Buddha and asks, Bhante, I am going to take solitude life and go away from this society, and wish to live in a single dwelling place. Please give me an instruction. Then the Buddha says, I have already given. You again come and asking individually, why is that? If you bloody old fellow is going to ask that, what about the young people? Like I said, the Buddha at the beginning not giving a kind of a good opening, but even then the Buddha is asking, Malunkyaputta, what do you think? The kind of a visual object is there you have never seen. And you have never saw. And it is not to be seen in future also. And presently also nothing, you are not looking at it. Under such circumstances, can that kind of a visual object create any defilement? No. Only the seen objects, only the limited thing we are surrounded by, they are the source of suffering. They are the creation of defilement. Then he says, there are some sounds you have never heard. You have never listened. And in future also, in your life, you may not. And you are not presently also not listening that particular sound. Can that kind of a thing create any suffering or turmoil or friction or frustration? No. Any smell you have never tasted, never smelt, not happen also. And in future also not going to happen, and presently also not. Can that kind of thing create any suffering or frustration? No. Then there is kind of a food, never you tasted. And nothing. And in future also you know you are not going to have kind of thing. Can that kind of a taste create any suffering? Or kind of a tactile sensation you have never touched or felt, and you are not going to happen in future also, can that create any suffering? No. So where is the suffering? Here, now. Whatever here now, it is suffering. No one believes. They think it is due to the past karma, it is due to the other person, it is due to this and that. They think being here and now is difficult because other person is my enemy. Or the climate is no good. Or this government is no good. Or the dollar has gone high and how can I meditate? You never think the present moment is the full source of suffering. And religion or Buddhism also completely camouflaged it. And fixed the people telling you are destined to suffer because you have past bad karmas. So therefore don't worry, nowadays you can't enlighten, you can't meditate, you better go and have some kind of other fun. So only the mindfulness is going to say, Venerable Mahasishyado is again and again showing this Malunkyaputta Sutta. He says, what is happening here, it is the origin. So therefore, if you are sharp enough, the whole gamut of defilement is to make you eccentric, not to be here and now. So far you were so skillful not to be here and now, so you have, let me put it this way, you are the masters, we are the masters to hate here now I am. Throughout the samsara we were hateful to the here now I am. So even after the instruction and with full faith and with full effort, we try to be here and now. Not that you can't go there. Soon you go there, you hate it. So therefore make this as a challenge. The hatred happen as irritation or self-criticism or fault-finding with others or expecting whole world to be perfect, pedantic. So whenever it sets in, if you can understand, it's a sign of mindfulness. I am again and again with the same object. So that is why it happens. So you solve this problem, or you understand the origin of suffering, not the past, not the future, not the other person, not the other place. It is here and now. So religious people are not happy with that. You always attribute to the past or future or other person or kind of thing. They make stories. So therefore one split second you have to be here and now. At that moment you cut through all the layers of defilements and you are enlightened. So it's a whole task is to make the next moment also here and now. Next moment also awaken. And the next moment also. Then all the things are, you have seen the suffering. Suffering is because that mind and the body never allow you to be here and now. It's because of the past, future, sleepiness, or agitated mind, or desire, or hate. So somehow that you keep it, you can see irritation. You can see the self-criticism, fault-finding, and pedantry. So moment you understand, please let me say, you are not understanding your mind, you are understanding human mind. These problems are not your individual problem. It's a human problem. The Buddha is putting it in such a large picture, but when and where the problem happens, you say, this problem is me, it is mine, it is myself. So you want to talk it very secretly, privately with some other people, thinking it is my problem. How much you have to meditate, how much you have to have the openness, how much you must have this choicelessness to consider they are completely happening in a universal law. No one can disprove it, but each and every time you are disproving it as a null hypothesis. You disprove it as a null hypothesis. The Buddha says each and every volitional or sankhara, it has its own origin. It has its own cessation. In between, you expect that to be fixed. What you expect that to be fixed is ever changing. Titassa anyatattam panyayati. You expect object to be face to face with you, but it never. Moment you see one in-breath, next in-breath is completely different. So you get upset telling, I supposed to be with the breath. You see, first I saw like this, and now it is not so, so you are desperate. Because you expect the same thing to happen. That is how our organizations are. That is how our constitutions are. That is how we are, society at large. We always try to fix it, but whatever the effort you are going to say, when and where you focus to one thing, the expected thing to be fixed, that is arambana, or alambana, or object, you are proving it is not fixed. Titassa anyatattam panyayati. Whatever you expect as established or well fixed, is not so. So one time you may see it, you may see your eyes are wrong. Or next time you see, you think that your theory is wrong. More and more you practice, you see origin of the truth of suffering is not belongs to the past and the future. It is not belong to the other person or other places. It is here and now. So very difficult for someone to accept it, because we don't have personality, we don't have confidence, we don't have contentment to accept it. By accepting, you are not nihilist. You are not destructive. This is the truth. So therefore, this origin of suffering, many expect in an eccentric way, some other person may come and save us. That is how the omnipresent God. Or by doing dana ceremonies and other pinkama, all of a sudden you get enlightened, like hitting on a rock while you are walking. All these are, you can see, eccentric and make you negligent. In that sense, Buddhism is nothing exceptional with other religions. Always gloss over, always camouflage. And by observing the history, it says, after the great demise of the Buddha, in Sri Lanka, there had been around 1,000 years, this has not been so glossed over. So therefore people were running completely household life and country was there, but there were a lot of people ready to understand this. But when and where the commentarial exegesis is going to happen, we establish as a Buddhism. So it happened that Titassa, the establishment or permanent, or that is to say, the patriotic Buddhist Sinhalese wanted to establish. Soon we started fundamentalism. Soon we started finding fault with the other religions, and ultimately that is the biggest danger for the teaching of the Buddha. So therefore, when and where you focus the attention and try to understand the origin of suffering, you find question is within you, answer is within you. Then you are omnipotent God. You are the God. Only thing is you have to understand the ignorance. You can't do it because you attribute to the other people, other places and kind of thing. Ultimately you become inferior. You expect, I have to do a lot of merits, I have to do this and that. And that is why I am waiting like, no harm as far as you are practicing. While you are practicing, if you can express yourself, it's very difficult. If you can express yourself, yesterday we try to understand the suffering manifest for the renounced people like this sleepiness or over-agitated mind or hatred or delight or past and the future. All 6 these potholes equally significant and equally important for each and everyone's understanding. And each and everything, you become sleepy or overexcited because of the delight and the lust. Or the shadow of that, the hatred. So it is then and there, in a very crispy way, in a very fresh way, indicate when it is manifesting under your very nose, it is nothing special for you, this is the human mind. The moment when you are understanding it, if you are really practicing and if you are understanding, you may feel you are living with Buddha. You are living in India. So it is mind-to-mind relationship is happening. Otherwise you think you have to go to India and sit under the same tree where the Buddha was sitting, and when you are meditating it will be easily communicated. So one day we went to Saranath and we had to retreat 10 days in Saranath to get kind of a special vibrations or special kind of thing. I think nothing happened. So wherever your alignments are okay, vibration is there. The land is full of potential. So therefore, with the tools you have, try to understand the origin of the truth of the noble truth of suffering is nowhere but here and now. Whenever it is manifested, you feel irritated. So therefore, the Buddha, it says, virago thetto dhammanam. Among the all phenomena, understanding that lack of taste or nibbida is the highest. And it must be happen under the light of mindfulness with full awareness. It is not due to the hate that you are met up with the wrong taste or kind of thing. You are completely out of the senses, but you are be with the material, something like in-breath and out-breath or walking left and the right. But when you keep on practicing, you can see more and more you with the breath, more and more you with the tangible, verifiable object, it become faded off, tasteless. Just like you add chlorine to the colorful clothes, it become bleached. So more and more practice bleaching happen. Not a single person in this audience not experience it. but everyone hates it. And that is the the way our origin of suffering is manifested. For yogis, it is not manifested as the desire, it manifests as the hatred. So you have to understand, whenever it happens, openly discuss it and share with other people. The day you understand this is a symptom of developing of mindfulness, you will be cut off from the society. No one will accept you as, they will consider you are something wrong and you must go to the asylum. So that is the real change to happen. It depends completely upon your outlook to the meditation, your outlook to the noble truth of origin of suffering, and potential is equally among ourselves. Not one person is better off than the other. Only thing is our ignorance and our desire is a camouflaged way, make ourselves eccentric. Never be here and now. Even if it is possible, it appear like rotten. It appear like slate, not tasty. The day you understand that tastelessness as your security, as a sign of your mindfulness, you are complete rich man or rich person. Because everywhere you can find associating the same object again and again, this is happening. Unless otherwise you hate it due to your phobia or due to your allergic reaction. So cutting through that is very difficult, but if you have a quick wit, if you have the radical reflection, you can see more than what you expect. There are some people, those who are looking at the life with that perspective. You never believe that. They are not necessarily Buddhists. That is also unbelievable. Not necessarily Buddhists, they consider it, but the Buddha is the one grammatically presented it and exposed it. If you are wish to understand in the gradual process, this is the way. Other people explain very poetic way, but there's you can't find a system. So Buddha presented it, so therefore when you are listening to Dhamma, you understand day by day you are rectifying little bit of doubts, little bit of uncertainty, but you have to practice again, and when you are practicing you can see something happening, you can't express it. When you listen to the Dhamma talk, that your experience and your unexpressible expression come together, then electrically you come to, that is what the Dhamma, that is called akaliko, ehipassiko, pacchattam veditabbo vinyuhi. So you, not only you practice and go into a silent, the solitude and brood, you must listen, you must discuss, and realization or really inside knowledge not necessarily happening in your sitting posture in the meditation, maybe while listening, maybe like communicating with others, maybe exposing to whatever may be. So therefore, it is not related to your posture, it is not related to your expectation, but whenever it happens, it is so intrinsic, it is so electric, you can't claim this as yourself, but you are undergoing changes. So that is what you call wise attention, that is what you call radical reflection. So our education make individuals so linear, they ruin radical reflection, the present day education. But anyway, you can use that language, you can use this grammar, but if you know how to put into this teaching of the Buddha, it is not always harmful if you know how to make use it. So therefore, Pandita Sayadaw used to say, your theoretical knowledge is not always negative. You can make use in a smart way to put into that. So therefore, don't hate the theory understanding, but what you have to appreciate is your repetitive application. When it's going there, you are cutting through and going against the grain, and each and every time the origin of truth of suffering happens, your first impression is allergic. You become allergic, you become phobia, But you see another person who is contented and living like a noble person, acquainted with that and how to tackle that, then you can understand, no, this is the way I must think. It is not meditation. It is deductive thinking. It is inferential. So they have to go hand in hand. So therefore, the Buddha says, if someone comes to me and asks about the noble truth of origin of suffering, I can give a fairly good answer. I can give a discussion and I can make him satisfied because he knows by understanding that itself, quick enlightenment can happen. That is called in Satori, in Japanese system. And there are leaps and bounds. All of a sudden this can happen. So therefore it is not under anyone's authority. That understanding or this, so to say, quick enlightenment, even not under your authority, no one's authority. So you can't sell, you can't make a commodity, and you can't tax upon that. Otherwise, the American government would have created a tax so far, because so much of meditation happens. So they are fine, they are best to tax for the people, those who have the first jhana, and more tax for the second jhana. Third jhana, now they are putting so much of effort to catch all the fellow. And being in America, if you are going to get the first jhana, be careful, you have to pay tax. Second, third. The Buddha says, Laddha mudha nibbuting bunjamana. You get it free of charge. And explain it, entertain it. And the Buddha give that way. So therefore they are so unhappy the way the Buddha present the truth. Those who are doing the commercialization, they are unhappy, but they can't catch hold it. Because it is happening in a completely different dimension. Here, now, I am. Not an organization. Not in plural sense, only individual. So therefore, each and every one of you is one-man army. If one person can understand this and get radically exposed to that, that energy is enough to keep the whole world peaceful. Whole world, the reduction of this global warming. And lot of theories they are making now to make you tense. It is political, nothing but political. When you are meditating, you can see no one affecting because you are living here and now. Whether ozone layer dissolved or not, if the world becomes warmer or not, you are giving the answer, and in the same sense, you are not affected. So therefore, don't undermine your single thought moment of being here and now, even though it appears like irritating, even though it is appear like self-critical or fault-finding or not pedantic. The army, your marching, advancing is more than human. Celestial beings are phrasing. So therefore, try to keep as much as possible the same alignment that you have earned, amidst of all the kind of allergic reactions and the kind of negative. And when you are writing your report, when you are presenting your interview report, put everything what is happening under your very nose. Then you will understand how to tackle it. It's a matter of tackling it, not merely lack of experience. You all have experience. You don't know how to tackle it. Therefore, this talk also, I hope, will straighten some of the doubts and make some jumping and positive thinking for you. With that wish in my mind, I would like to sum up the today's talk. Thank you very much for listening.